Boy, oh boy, do we have a show for you today. I like to remind people that Continuing Conversations started out by superfans for superfans. And so we love the superfans coming on the show and talking about all the creativity they bring to Star Trek Adventures and or Captain's Log. I'm Michael Dismuke. You can always check out my work at michaeldismuke.com. I'm a freelance writer for Star Trek Adventures, lead writer on Captain's Log, plus a lot of other stuff I've had privilege to work on. We have Jim Johnson, who is going to teleport in at some point today, possibly. He's on special mission for Starfleet and asked me to move ahead with this for the sake of time. We do have a returning guest. Alex, go ahead and introduce yourself and your connection to Star Trek Adventures.
Yeah, my name is Alex. I'm a professional GM. I'm running games on StartPlaying.games, and I run just basically all Star Trek now. It's taken over my life, and that's what I do.
I love to hear that. I've played with Alex, and it's incredible, me being a forever GM, being able to play in his games. And I'll get some time again, Alex. I will join again. I promise. I really will. And then we have a first-time guest with us, superfan John Mierau. Did I pronounce that right? I did. Mierau. See, I want to put the French in it because you're Canadian. Mierau. Isn't it Mierau? If I was really to...
That's the problem with being Canadian. People want to pronounce it too correct.
Right. And then my
name is John Mierau. I'm very happy to be a fan of the show as well as Continuing Missions. It's really nice to be here too. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. My mom's maiden name is Nadeau, so I'm a Nadeau on my mom's side, which is cool. She's from Quebec. So wonderful, John. You know, this is as the first time being on Continuing Conversations. You get the traditional 2 questions: your favorite series and your favorite Star Trek character.
My favorite series has to be, after great deliberation, and I know there's a wrong answer for someone out there, is Deep Space Nine. I like the fact that it brought reality and grittiness, but didn't sacrifice the trust in the future, the hopefulness in people. And it gave us flawed characters who you ended up rooting for just as much as the gold-plated heroes of other series. So, real tight one, but I'm going to go with Garak.
Ooh, yes. Thank you very much. I'm Team Garak, so I agree with this wholeheartedly. And Jim, since he's not here right now, he's all Deep Space Nine. Everyone knows that. So you will have a warm place in his heart for mentioning that. Now, what is the theme of the show today? It is about awards and accolades, which one of the reasons I brought John on, because he did an amazing post on social media about awards and accolades and drew me in. I was like, would you mind coming on the show and talking about this? And I know Alex does a lot of research into character advancement and has made some good comments on that. So let's just first of all just launch right into it. Just so you all know, for those of you who are maybe new to Star Trek Adventures and especially 2E, if you were to go to page 173 or actually 172 in the core rulebook, it talks about using acclaim. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And it also has awards on page 173. And in the exploration guide, which came out on page 16, it had additional awards and honors. So let's just bring it thematically into here a little bit. Let's start with this question. In your games, do you use acclaim and accolades a lot? How do you, acclaim and awards quite a bit? Or is it something you're just all starting to play with?
Okay, yes. I just, before I hung up this call, finished a court trial. It was great, my first court trial, and it was everything that I could have hoped for. It was so stressful, trying to do honor to the mechanism, and I introduced it, as I think everybody should, by starting with, this is voluntary and optional. Who wants to include this? Mm-hmm. Because it's a great mechanism, but some players don't want to. Some players want to get through the adventure. They want the through line of the role play, and other people want to have those impassioned to kill a mockingbird with a starship moments. And it was wonderful to do because the characters had to, in acclaim, in reputation roles, the idea is you choose the moments that you didn't act as a Starfleet officer. You choose the moments that you did And the conflict between those two is the court trial. And basically that's what your reputation roles come down to. And it was so much fun. But it's always up to my campaigns and what the players want.
Now I'm wondering how it turned out. Did they survive the JAG hearing?
One reprimand. That was it.
Okay.
Nothing worse. Oh, it's so stressful. But you set up these wonderful moments in like, oh, please don't punish my characters.
Yeah. Alex, how about you? Have you played around at all with Awards and Acclaim?
Yeah. I start out all of my groups kind of using the reprimands and rewards roles, and then kind of a little bit later would kind of, now that once they've learned the rules, they can be like, hey, you don't have to use this if you don't want to. So some groups are still using them and some aren't, kind of just based on kind of what the group style was. But just, I guess it was last week now that a player just also purchased for themselves a court martial trial, and is cool. They're saving up for it a while. I think that's one of my favorite things, that you can buy a session for yourself. And that's very cool.
Exactly. Our game, 5 years, I know a couple of weeks ago we had a show about how our 5-year campaign ended, our 5-season campaign for the USS Pioneer. We never used that system. We didn't use reputation. We were very narrative and using, we decided when someone got an award based off a big explosive cinematic event is how we ran it. So just to let people know, there's some of you who want the crunch and to use the STA rules. Some of you may decide not to. There's no wrong way. I think, to John's point, discuss it with your team and decide what best fits for them. I love Alex here. I love hearing when players punish themselves. That to me is the best narrative storytelling character development tool people can use, which plays into this question. What are some creative ways game masters can weave the presentation of awards or commendations into the narrative so it feels earned and cinematic, like a scene in the Ready Room or at Starfleet Command? What did that look like, Alex? You want to start? Like, you talked a little bit about it. What did that look like for your game?
For the like awards and acclaim stuff, so like the positive things, I'll usually kind of like, and the ship will be like out doing a mission somewhere, and they'll usually kind of like return to base. And then like when that happens, it'll be like every 4 missions or so, or 4 sessions. There's kind of just a kind of almost like a debrief session, or a session where we get to see all the characters kind of go into with their lives. And right at the beginning of those, I'll open those up with like award ceremonies and things like that. And there's scenes where all of the kind of main characters and maybe NPCs we haven't seen in a while kind of enter the room, and what these kind of do is they let us check in on characters I haven't seen in a while, but then it also highlights players. So like, here's the award that you kind of wanted to buy for yourself, and here's that promotion that we talked about, and all that kind of stuff. And it's sort of I use those as sort of session kind of framing, or session starters, kind of the opening scene where you kind of just check on those players, and it kind of gives a moment for characters to kind of have their time in the spotlight, I guess. That's kind of like the main thing that I come back to regularly. I have some other thoughts on like traits and stuff like that, but that's kind of the main thing that we come back to.
Yeah. John, what about you?
Well, it's so tricky. Some people love the randomness of the roles. Some people hate that they've laid the seeds in so many episodes to do the right thing, but it can still play against them. But to me, that's the secret beauty of the system. First, I love what Alex said about starting with the creation of your ship and adding in some acclaim to start, as to kind of kickstart people into thinking about it. An award for one character. Perhaps during the course of setting up the campaign, you decide that everybody's going to vote for somebody to get a promotion if they want it. Always check with players before you give them something to do on screen. Talk to them above table. But then coming back to it at the end, an acclaim or a reprimand, it's really a roll of the dice. But so's jurisprudence in the real world. You think you've got it all sewn up, but it plays against you. Court of public opinion, powerful person. I gave a wonderful first officer just this evening their first reprimand, and I think it really burned them. But I made sure I played it through the role play. I made sure they didn't feel it was punitive for the player, because that's something that people can feel. So through the role play, I played a scene after she left the room. She was very upset. She had expected more acclaim, but she got a single point of reprimand.
Wait, the character or
And
the who left the room? The character or the player? Upset.
the player character left the room with a
Okay.
single point of
Yeah.
reprimand.
Yeah.
And another character talked to this person about how it's really important that the characters that have the most hope don't get so full of themselves they think they can set their own rules, invoking
Mhm.
the spirit of Kirk, that they have to play by the rules because they're going to keep them safe. And afterwards, the character's like, okay, you won me back. Thanks for that little bit of role play. You gave me
Yeah.
some perspective. But it's the randomness that also made it fun, I think.
Well, I like that. I like that you mentioned Kirk because in Star Trek: The Voyage Home, at the end, we know that he loses the Admiralty, and yet when he's demoted to the rank of captain, the look of happiness on his face was such amazing character development. He's like, "You just gave me what I wanted, you fools." I think
Yep.
that's really how it should be with the players too. It should be, even a demotion should be something about character development that is super meaningful. I think about Lieutenant Paris too, right? Paris goes from lieutenant to being demoted to ensign after spending 30 days in the brig, right? For that aqua planet thing. And then later on, he's restored to lieutenant. And I thought that was a really cool bounce in Voyager to show character growth. The demotion
Mhm.
created a better character in both of those cases. So
Adversity.
yeah, right. That's what makes we talked about it so much on the show, where conflict creates the best characters. Characters who are willing to fall forward into failure make the best characters oftentimes. Yeah. So how do you keep awards meaningful without letting them become competitive between players or distracting from the collaborative spirit of Star Trek crew? What are some of the techniques you both use to do that?
Okay. Both above table and in DM, I host my games in Discord, and it's audio only because I really feel that theater of the mind element really helps people
Mhm.
create an image in their head of what the other players would look like in character. But it also gives me a chance to speak to them about how they can help other characters. What do you think this character needs? What do you think this character is going to respond to? What do you think the character doesn't know they want, but saddling them with them will give them an opportunity so that it builds cohesion between the players as well as the characters. So nothing should be a total surprise. You should always um, couch your plans by discussing options in advance so you don't have upset or surprised characters. People are human, they'll react poorly. But when they know what the scope and the range can be, you can tease them and you can check their reactions and you can check in with the other player characters so that you use it as an opportunity to build a stronger, more cohesive group if you're lucky.
Mhm. Yeah. Alex?
Yeah. As far as like awards, kind of specifically, and the acclaim spends are kind of part of this as well. But for especially for awards, I like to have players sort of nominate each other for them. So like uh, especially for the groups, some groups are rolling for their stuff and then they have points to spend. But and in those groups, everybody will kind of look at the list. Somebody might be like, "Hey, this word kind of feels like it fits for your character, actually," and a little light bulb will go off, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's actually perfect." Because sometimes somebody else's perspective on your character is the best, especially for something like an award, and it can be really validating when somebody else says like, "I really liked this moment for your character, and I would like to see that awarded in character, and also by doing that, we're highlighting it out of character as well." And so having characters or players kind of nominate each other kind of makes it something that's like something that people are doing for each other as opposed to just for themselves. And for the groups who aren't rolling, like every once in a while, we'll just kind of do one of those sessions where we talk about if anybody deserves a promotion or something like that. But yeah, just having people nominate each other for this stuff instead of buying it for yourself kind of makes it something that's we're doing together instead of for ourselves.
Yeah. I want to get a
I
little
also like to
controversial.
share
Okay.
the awards with people so they can think. Sorry to interrupt, but giving them the description like tactical acumen or uh, took command or made sure that a crew survived, so that people can get a sense of what resonates with them or what sounds like other characters have already described from their pasts can be revisited.
Yeah.
Now, once they've earned the awards, do you like what if they won an award that they actually didn't, like you said, tactical? What if they didn't do anything tactical in the last couple episodes, but they want that award? Do you then give them the award and then write an episode that's tactical that gives, like, how do you do that? Because I honestly, I'm going to be controversial here for a second. I think that it's a little easy to get awards in comparison to what we see on the television and movies. Like, they don't hand out awards for all the amazing things Worf did and Riker did. They weren't getting awards left and right. If I was to roll reputation rolls on what they did. So how do you really balance that? I think that's one of the reasons my group went narrative on it. We were like, you know what? This feels like this award now. So how do you keep it from them getting awards every 4 games?
Yeah, I think I have an answer to this. So, like, I mean, first of all, the awards do have those kind of like prerequisites kind of written. It was like, you have to have done this thing. And I think like sometimes players can feel like they feel like it's just flavor text, and so they'll gloss over it to see what's the cool ability I can get. But like, you gotta tie it back to the narrative. It's like, no, that prerequisite is actually kind of important, because the awards are actually, they're pretty cheap. Like, it's just like 2 or 3 acclaims sometimes. Or often, and I think sometimes they stack. I can't remember that, but
as an example, just give an example, like Christopher Pike Medal of Honor. It specifically, to your point, says the character must be an officer in command or leadership position who led their crew in a succession of several difficult missions and who faced personal danger on at least 2 of those missions. So
now that's actually costs 4 instead of 3 because of that succession of meritorious bravery, multiple events.
But like, I'm not, if a player is like, oh man, I think I want this award, like, I'm not going to be like, you can't have that. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to like raise my eyebrow and be like, oh, really? Like, well, tell me about it. Right. And then like, and then if they, I'm kind of radically, of the opinion that the player's imagination of the universe that they're fulfilling is just as important as mine. And so if a player truly like looks at that and like, I really actually kind of really feel like I earned this, then they're probably right. And like, it's usually because I trust my players, and I don't think that they're trying to like just get all the bonuses and just play for the numbers. Like
there's people
trust them to role play it. People will do that, but it's like, all you got to do is like, you got to raise your eyebrow and be like, oh really, you think so? And like, usually if a player is like just trying to get something, to be like, yeah, probably not. So like, it doesn't take much to like kind of push back on
see what I would do if I was the player. If I was a player really trying to work the mechanics of STA, I would say, well, this is a continuation of some career events. I would go look at my career events and kind of say, well, this is just my latest action puts the cherry on the top for Starfleet for that. So I'm giving some players some cheat codes here.
Yeah, I tell my players not to listen to this episode now.
Seriously, embargo 1 year. What happens for me? I don't ever want to tell a character I know their character better than they do, but I also tell my characters this is a shared world. So when they join, I say, maybe you don't like to write, maybe you don't care about our awards, but I want you to give me a few lines of history. And the life path generation really helps you out for the characters. What were your career events? Had to take command, contact with an alien, these things that define you. And if you talk to them a bit, if they don't want to write, I will take a few notes when we spitball the characters before session 0, during a session 0, to see what matters to them. Then your best weapon to help decide if somebody deserves an award is, okay, so you can tell me the benefit you're getting, great, but tell me about role play for me, describing to your captain or your admiral why you deserve that or what time that happens to you. And if, just like in the game, if you can role play it and you feel it, you probably deserve it. But that's the key, is you've always got to be there in the scene, tell people, your Napoleon Bonaparte moment. And when I was riding through the cannons, describe it. We'll probably give it to you. GMs are nice people too.
So am I mean in 65 episodes with my group, only one player received 2 awards out of 65 campaigns.
Were your players nagging you for awards the whole time, though?
No, they weren't.
So you weren't being mean. They were just that's the style that your group was playing at, right?
Yeah.
100% optional. Nobody has to play these to get the benefit.
Yeah. And part of it was the captain was Romulan. And so there was kind of shade coming from Starfleet all the time. So they wouldn't even give him awards if he did earn them. Like the ones he got were basically universe saving events. And like, well, we got to give this guy an award, at this point. So that was probably what was happening there. And then John, touch base. I invited you on this because you had actually did some work and so you posted something about awards. You call them accolades. What did you mean by accolades in your?
Well, for an accolade, it's very, very fancy word, but basically it just means an award is the Purple Heart. An award is the Star of Honor, the Christopher Pike Medal. But accolades are just as important. It could be that you trade in, instead of for an award, you trade in your values for the stalwart support and faith of a foreign power, like a Romulan commander, using your previous example. He's always going to come to your defense. That's a powerful tool that you could say, look, I'm near the Romulan border. I'm outnumbered. I'm going to call on my buddy to come and help me out. Other accolades.
This is a homebrew rule, right? I mean, this is a homebrew rule you created, correct? Because there's a claim in the thing.
Yeah. I guess accolades would technically be a homebrew rule, but I think I'm building on what's already there.
I like hearing
because
it,
it's there in the rules for gaining favor and creating statuses. Those are accolades.
Yeah, I like that. I like the creative. That's what I liked about it too. Talk a little bit more. You're basically saying your players, they can actually get a favor, buy a favor almost.
Yeah, it's like buying a favor. But it's from the text. I think it's called gain favor. It's gain favor.
Yeah.
And it costs more as you stack the person. You can gain favor from somebody the same rank as you. And then it costs more if they're not from Starfleet, if they're from a friendly power. It costs more if they're from a non-friendly power. It costs more if they're an admiral or senior rank. Because if you have a Federation counselor that's going to show up and stop your court martial, that's a powerful tool to have in your pocket. So an accolade and gaining favor and creating a status trait about who you are, I think they're all in the rules, but I think that they deserve a little extra power, because how many times have we seen a favorite character show up and make things go easier for somebody that's really stuck in the middle of the gauntlet? I like that aspect.
Yeah, I like that. I love that nuance. And again, I like that you said traits, because those are where traits can come in order to influence the game in certain roles.
Yeah, there's respected by the Vulcans, or respected by the Romulans that like Spock, and not by the ones who don't.
Yeah, or being an honorary Vulcan Science Academy member or something to that effect.
Yeah.
That those are good accolades that people could have. Inventor of something specific, of the transporter, perhaps. So that would work. So
maybe he can tell you what happened to Admiral Archer's dog.
The pet beagle. Forget the pet beagle. It's gone. We'll never see it again. Maybe it should have shown up in Lower Decks. Actually, now that I think about it, that's where they missed an opportunity.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, they missed a huge opportunity without having an episode about that beagle. I have to ask a question to both of you too. When it comes to reputation roles, I'm looking like under negative influences on page 171. And I have a hard time ever having my players have broken one of those. And I don't like railroading to force them to break those. So again, do you think it weighs too heavily to them actually having success in those roles at the end of a game? Or how do you manage that?
I feel like maybe my players are just chaos agents, but I don't have that problem.
You don't? It's okay. It's just me. My people follow It's so boring. They follow Starfleet protocol. Oh my God. It's just, they don't break orders. It's like, it's crazy. Or they find ways to manipulate them,
So some of the negative reputation factors include challenging your directives, disobedience, unnecessary combat, somebody dies under your command, or dishonorable behavior, telling off an admiral. That's Star Trek.
Yeah, I guess my people don't do that. You know what it was? I think they were so separated from Starfleet for so long because they were in another galaxy. They didn't have a chance to be, they were on their own. So they didn't really
Yeah.
get a chance to do that. That's probably the problem.
There's a couple places where you can, if you're really trying to like stack negative influences on that roll, there's a couple places you can get it for free. So like I rule that using your ship's weapons is always lethal force, and that's an automatic negative influence basically. You can't set your ship's phasers to stun, as far as I'm concerned. You're always
Wow.
you're always risking, killing somebody with that.
We've talked before about red alert giving you threat, haven't we?
Yeah, we've talked about that. There's a couple of places you can get it kind of for free like that, and but you are right that like it's kind of up to the players to decide how much they want to kind of be chaos agents to get that. If everybody's like playing like really kind of straight-laced Starfleet officers, they're probably not going to be many negative influences, and which is a shame because the reprimand spends are probably the more exciting ones there, both for players and GMs. Like I said, it's so exciting to be able to buy yourself a mission with like the court-martial session, and even the detention. Like I've had players buy detention for themselves like several times. Like people, they just keep going back to it because they're like, it's so cool that my player gets to spend a day in jail while or doing retraining or something, and I can pick up a supporting character or whatever. And it's weirdly kind of exciting to people that they have this like consequences happening to their character. And I like rolling for those because I don't have to be like a jerk about it. I think it's really cool to have players kind of have those consequences happen to themselves. But yeah, I don't. Go ahead.
It's hard to know what to do because you don't want to be railroading, you don't want to be nasty, but I think a good GM is kind of like you. You're not the opponent, you're not the supporter, you're the chaos agent. And so my favorite one is, I think you need to choose one of those rewards and be stripped of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you put them in there. Oh, which one?
That's true. Well, here's the thing too. I love how you brought up, did you employ lethal force during the mission? Because now I'm reading deeper into these that you mentioned. You use a ship's weapon. That's lethal force. The next question on the list is, did you take any unnecessary risks during the mission? How do you define an unnecessary risk when you're in space? Everything's an unnecessary risk, right? But what are your thoughts about using that one?
I almost never have players actually ding themselves for that. They're almost like it's always necessary, right? But I don't like to force them to answer a certain way. I always like, you answer these for yourselves, and sometimes like, well, it's a group conversation when we're doing these questions, and I'll ask that question. Did you do anything that was unnecessary? And if there's something that I felt like, I just go back to the eyebrow thing. Like, really? Are you lying to yourself right now? Like, is that how you feel? And like usually they're like, no, this was necessary. Like I did everything I could. But sometimes there's somebody's like, yeah, okay, I was being a little reckless, and then kind of give himself a little point.
Could we base it off of difficulty? Like, say for instance, there's a difficulty 5 warp or transporter maneuver that's necessary, like in Act 2 or Act 3, and so that's a huge risk is rolling on that, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't you use that as an argument that that's a negative influence?
I'll make those arguments, but I think at the end of the day, I just let I'll use like, oh, didn't you think that this was like particularly risky to, you almost destroyed the whole ship or something by making this roll? Don't you think that was maybe a little bit too risky? But I don't want to answer that for them, right? I don't want to tell them that it was too risky. So it's up to them. And you are right that sometimes they're like, no, it was necessary. We had to do it. It worked, didn't it? So
I think most of the negative factors are coming up against personal belief versus the letter of the law for the Federation. The only one that I think is really worth as a GM bringing up, because I think they'll write their own negatives, except, did you shoot first? Did you risk combat before trying to talk? Those are the only ones that I think set themselves up.
Okay. One more question though I want to dig into then with this, because I'm now, as you can see, I'm really looking to like really use this so that it's a little bit.
I'm expecting powerful. A GM, Alex, is like, I'm doing a courtier martial.
Right. So it says, did you lie, cheat, threaten? Those are pretty clear things, right? Or coerce others to achieve objectives during the mission. I mean, what's coercion really? And is it always bad?
I'm always like rephrasing these questions after I ask them for these reasons where I'm like to give the context of like, okay, here's a whole bunch of like really specific actions, but like this is the did you play a little bit more like Garrick this session, or did you play a little bit more like Picard this session?
Hey now, right? Hey now.
Okay.
And then players love the idea of being Garrick as well, and so they'll be like, "Yeah, I was a little bit more like Garrick this session, wasn't I?" Yeah, you got to phrase it. I like to kind of reframe the question in that way, in the way that makes it exciting for them. Kind of like. It's like, yeah, I kind of coerced, or I lied, or I cheated to get this, but it worked.
I flirted.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this.
And so that question is all just about like, are you kind of the model stand-up Starfleet officer, right, who never tells a lie? That's the context of there, and there's some specific examples of that. But I like to kind of give the bigger picture of what that means. Were you more of this kind of character or that kind of character?
I think there's two ways it's really important to use the idea of coercion. Beautifully put. But isn't that 50% of social conflict? You can use social conflict to convince someone to earn their trust, or you can gaslight them. Now, I don't like that word, that's loaded, but you can intentionally deceive them. You can use the importance of solving the mission to set up an event that's going to change this person's trajectory. And sometimes an episode of Star Trek ends with the right thing happened, but that character can't look the captain in the eye. And the captain knows that this is going to come back in 2 seasons with a strong returning guest occurrence to somebody who's very angry. And again, sometimes we want to ding people for doing that as the first choice, because there are always Chaos Agent players who want to hijack the campaign. So there is, in a very slight way, to keep group cohesion, we can remind people that if you didn't try to be nice first, if you didn't do the Federation, if you weren't a Galactic Boy Scout, there's going to be a consequence.
I like the
but
way
anything but railroad.
I like the way you described it, because I'm thinking about times where now, if I'm going back to episodes, I think about, for instance, false prophets in Voyager, where the 2 Ferengi had taken over that planet as gods, and they used trickery. Janeway chose to use trickery, having Neelix go down as a Ferengi Nagus in order to trick them into getting off the planet. That's coercion. They weren't all up front. So I probably would make that's something that if those Ferengi come back, they're less likely to trust Starfleet later, knowing that Starfleet will employ trickery. I would use that as a negative influence, actually. Or the times Riker will threaten to blow a Romulan ship from the stars, even though he's not going to really do it, but he threatens. When that come back as a like, oh, they're not really that tough. Could that be used as a negative influence?
Yeah.
I think the biggest negative influence is when Riker sits in a chair backwards. But that's just me.
It's always nice. It's always nice to remind players that like a captain like Captain Sisko is like not actually liked very much by Starfleet. That he has a low reputation, but people like, but he's still a great captain. And so just like, I think the negative influences can feel like a punishment sometimes, and he's got to like reframe it. Like, it's not a punishment; it makes you a badass, right?
Whoa!
Yeah.
So you're saying, wait, that's an epiphany moment. You're saying anytime he may have used his status as emissary, which is anti-Starfleet to do, anytime he used that really to influence the board,
maybe that's coercion. People,
it would be coercion, and therefore, from a Starfleet standard, be considered negative influence.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, whenever he leaned into it, he was breaking the rules, right? Those are the cool characters. Those are the moments you love, when they steal the Enterprise to save the planet.
Yeah, these questions are not, are you a good person? These questions are, how does Starfleet think of you on your record, right?
It's possible then, now that you're mentioning this, now you guys are making me think that you may need to have 2 different tracks. Like, for instance, Worf, when he heads over to the Klingon Empire, he could have an entirely different reputation than one that as a Starfleet officer.
Yep. And that's an important thing to think about. Who's in charge of the court? Are you Riker, but you're serving on a Klingon vessel? Do you honor the fact that it's a different culture by acting in keeping with their values while you're serving there?
And poor Garrick, he's like negative 12 reputation with both Starfleet and the Cardassians, the way he's
hanging on by a thread, man.
That's amazing. So if you have a character who's on the line, like has a trait of maybe, being like again, we saw it with Spock. With the Vulcans, he had way less reputation than with Starfleet, the Vulcan Science Academy. So there's some more complexities that we've never talked before about on the show that you could actually do is run different reputation tracks, especially when you have these games between two polities and the characters straddling the fence.
Yeah, I probably want to simplify. I probably wouldn't want to do a separate role for each of those all the time. But yeah, I mean, you could just award. Like John was saying before, it sounds like you just kind of give your players a reprimand point sometimes. Just do that kind of stuff for things that are not on screen, like the Vulcan Science Academy. Sometimes that kind of stuff.
Only when they earn it or own it or mention it, and give them some chances to think, well, how heavy do you want to lean into that? Because that could affect you positively or negatively in different ways, and give them a chance to think it through. But then a couple episodes later, they meet a character who's going to reprimand them, demote them, not allow the starship in to do a good thing because of the other thing. And those are the plot twists that makes it interesting, and the characters deciding how to, do I change? Do I apologize? Do I stick to my guns? Sometimes that's more fun than deciding to fire phasers or for torpedoes.
Yeah. I guess to keep it simple then, to Alex's point, so you don't have to keep multiple reputation tracks, I probably would slap it. Like if they sided with Starfleet, say like a Worf kind of character, and that created some sort of penalty, I would make that a trait against Worf that would be playing into different games, maybe with a pretty high potency, like no longer House of Moog or something, potency 2 or something. Okay. I could see that. All right. Any last words on awards and accolades that you all want to talk about? John, we'll go around. Any last words, advice for GMs and players?
I'm on Start Playing too, and every single campaign I have starts with making sure that the players are a good match for each other. And when you get a good campaign table, they're going to make choices very similar to each other, and you have to GM them according to the way they want to play. If they don't ever want to think about reputation, fine. If they very strongly want to stringently follow the rules, fine. But you got to take your cue and your lead from the players. They're taking the time out of their busy lives. You are too. But the whole point isn't to beat them. It's to make the game as juicy and as suspenseful as possible. So whatever they like, lean into that.
Good advice, Alex.
I guess I'll just repeat some of the stuff I said before, kind of summarize my thoughts, is that trust your players, and when they kind of perceive the world in a certain way, and don't necessarily tell them they're wrong, but just have them be like, oh, great, describe that more for me, and bring me into the same imagination space that you're in. And whether that's, how they're answering those negative influence questions, or whether it's, whether or not they deserve a particular award, or whatever it is, just, trust your players and follow their lead. With how they're kind of imagining their character, and how they imagine the world that you're all in as well, because that will bring everybody more onto the same page, and just make everything feel smoother.
I love that. Yeah, remember, it's not permanent. Like John said, awards can be given and can be taketh away with design with your player. You don't want to just steal it from them. I talk to them about it. Okay, fantastic. Mine is similar to all of yours. It's a session 0 conversation. One game, we didn't use it. We just let the narrative drive it. But I have another game that I'm starting up that is going to be very heavy about reputation, because it has to do with Klingon honor. So we're using adaptation for Klingon houses. So we know that's a lot about reputation there. So we'll be using that. All right.
So trying to imagine Ferengi houses. It would be the opposite, right?
Definitely.
You were very underhanded. 20 pieces of Latin.
Yeah, I would actually, since you brought it up, I would actually, if I was doing a Ferengi game, I would grab the rules of acquisition, and I would base it on whether they follow the rules of acquisition or not. I would try to truncate those 285 rules down into 10 questions each to determine if they're loyal to it, right? Yeah, good call out. All right, good. So let's do gratitude as usual. I'll go ahead and start with my gratitude. I'm giving my gratitude to Jim Johnson because he was not able to transport in from Starfleet headquarters. Apparently, he had a big thing to do with the Academy. So I want to thank him though because it's not the same show without him. But he will be in the next show for sure. I have confirmation of that. All right, John, you want to do your gratitude, and then we'll close out with Alex.
I am grateful. My gratitude is exclusively for the system and the chance to lead players through it, and having that trust and having the opportunity to be constantly surprised.
Very nice. And John, again, thank you for being the first time on our show. Don't make it the last. Always keep suggesting topics. Love it. And Alex?
I'm good. I got to give my gratitude to John. We've interacted with each other online a few times, and it's just, I think this is the first time we've been on a call together. So it's so lovely to meet you. And I really want to join one of your games sometime. And I hope that I can do that because I think that would be awesome. Especially because, I run a lot of games now, and, talking about
never get a chance to play.
I never get I really like the reprimands and acclaim rules, but I don't get to use them. And I want that chance. So maybe I'll join one of your games sometime, and I'll get to do that.
Right. And as always, both of them will send me their links so that I can put it inside the blog post so everyone can join their games. I'm telling you right now, I tell people, you go to the movies for $20 now. And by the time you order popcorn and drinks, you spend like $80 and you only get 2 hours and have no input into the game. Whereas you could spend like $20, $25 for one of these games and spend 3 hours and be part of the movie. It's so worth it. I can't tell you how it's a good value for your money. So I appreciate both of you taking the lead on that and teaching people Star Trek adventures. All right. Until next time, IDIC. It's weird not having Jim say live long and prosper, so I'll say it for him. All right. Take care.
He's awesome. Here. He's just out of phase.
Exactly. We'll get him back.
Oh, no. Is he wearing one of those really bad Tholian Web EV suits?